Get all the All right, good Tuesday morning to you. This is PT Breakfast Club. He's Dave Kittle, and he's Tony Maritato. Wait, no, switch that. I'm Jimmy McKay. And today we're going to talk about, I hope we get all these topics in because we got some good ones lined up. Number one, term protection, but maybe not the one that you're thinking about. Second, a physical therapy or healthcare spin on the, I don't even know how many seasons it's in, much beloved TV show Shark Tank. And did Ozempic kill Weight Watchers? We're not sure. That could be the scoop. But first, I want to go to, quite literally, my mailbox. And I think I shared this in a DM with you guys, but this is a little bit visual, but I was in radio. I can talk you through this and do some play-by-play. So this is an organization, I won't say who, but I think understood the assignment. And this is a direct mail piece that I got in my mailbox like 2 days ago. And I was captivated. I don't know the last time someone said I got a thing in the mail and I was captivated by it. But I'm going to show it on camera and I'll talk you through it. And then I want to hear what we can do in terms of spinning it to physical therapist practice owners. So here's the letter. Oh, wait, maybe I'll cover my address so people don't be showing up at my house. But here's the letter. It is a plain white envelope. That's it. It just has my name and address on it. I'm not really covering anything up besides my name and address. You can send me a letter if you want. And in the top right-hand corner, it's got like the details about postage. And in the top left-hand corner, right, where the return address is a barcode. And all it has is three little words that say, do not bend. And now I'm just holding up the envelope now. But when I got the letter, you could feel it had some stuff in it, right? So, of course, I get this with 5 or 6 other stupid things in the mail. Everything's in the mail besides a check. A check is good. Everything else sort of stupid or sort of annoying, right?
Looks the same, feels the same.
This is innocuous, right? This is just like anything else. There's no logos in the front and back. It does actually have a little bit of texture to it. It almost looks like a golf ball. It's like dimpled. So it feels a little bit beefy, a little bit. And then inside there's something. But it was these 3 words that really, really confused me. Do not bend. So number one, off the bat, when you see this, can you figure out who it's from or what it's about? You guys are like, Sherlock Holmes. No idea. I had no idea. But of course, the do not bend completely captivated me. What's in it that I can't bend, right? Like I had to know before I even got halfway up the driveway. I've got the other mail under my arm and I'm doing this and I'm opening it up. And the reason I point this out before we reveal who it was and who had a great brand strategy, and I gave him kudos on LinkedIn, I will say they understood the assignment of the envelope. They understood the assignment of the YouTube thumbnail. They understood the assignment of the email subject line, which is to get you to open the envelope, open the email, or click the video for the first 3 to 5 seconds. So I'll stop there. I don't want to go too fast.
Open it with attention. You can. We all open envelopes. We rip open envelopes, but you have attention. You had significant attention on it. You might have been walking up the driveway, but you were still serious about it because do not bend in your head and in our heads will be something like, it's important. What is this? A legal letter? Am I getting sued? Right. Is it something fragile? What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's one of those things you immediately think it's important. There are some direct marketing guys, Joe Polish, Dan Sullivan, Dan Kennedy, like this is right out of their playbook. I used to listen to their podcast all the time. There are some really, really great strategies. I'll hear the rest of Jimmy's part, but I'll talk about a couple of the things that we had done, we had tried, that I had seen. Really cool stuff you could do with direct mail.
Yeah. So Dave had it right and Tony had it right, which is this made me not only open it, but like I was dying to open it. I opened it first. I couldn't wait to open it. Like when's the last time you said that outside of like knowing you're getting a check in the mail, right? Couldn't wait to open it. So
it's the version of a Super Bowl TV commercial versus a TV commercial any other night of the year. People will tune in just to watch the commercials.
Right. So I rip it open and inside it is a brand that I've interacted. So this is a reactivation campaign. So I'm on a list because I was a customer within the last year for this brand, and it's a pretty big brand, right? So this is actually what was on the inside. So they understood the assignment too, because they wrote, bam, 18 free meals. This is HelloFresh. This is the meal kit service that they send the ingredients to you. This is Legos for adults who need someone to hand them all the pieces and the instructions to make a meal, because people like me, I just don't like to cook. But they understood the assignment. Had the outside of the envelope looked like the inside, right? That's an ad. And I've seen the outside of an envelope look like that. I would have looked at it and been like, oh yeah, maybe, right? But I've already talked about it 15 times, 3 times with you guys. We're talking about it on a live stream, talked about it on phone calls. I talked about it on LinkedIn, because and here's what I want to do. I want to undercomplicate this. The reason this is so brilliant is because it's simple. And I think I see most people overcomplicating, trying to communicate with people. But the brilliance is do not bend, because of all the things that Dave and Tony said. But could you imagine being in a marketing meeting with 20 other marketing geniuses at HelloFresh, and your pitch is the Seinfeld pitch? It's the anti-pitch. It's the show about nothing, right? It's nothing. And hopefully whoever was bold enough to do this, I guess I'm just showing my address on the stream from now on. Whoever was bold enough to do this, I hope they get a raise, because and again, you can't measure open rates of envelopes that are sent in the mail, but my guess is this is higher than anything else they did in the last year.
And they'll know, they'll have you flagged in their system, whatever they use, Salesforce or whatever, HubSpot, whatever. Like if you eventually in the next several weeks or months or whatever, if you start paying, even if you don't use a code from that,
right.
They know, they have your name, your address in their system. And if you start paying for meals again in the next 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever, then they can attribute probably the reactivation of you as a customer to this campaign. And now you might get we got to follow up in like a month or so. We got to ask you if you get other things in the mail from them that are kind of tied to this, or it's probably not a one-off, but we'll have to see.
And just so we follow up, like I'm holding on the camera, but like inside was this card with a QR code, 18 free meals plus a free tote. I get a free tote, but it's
Americans love free stuff.
Like, it's pretty beefy. So on the inside of the envelope, like they understood what are the things you can do. Well, you can feel the outside of the envelope. You can read it. You can sort of, when it says do not bend, what's the first thing we do? Oh, okay. What is this? We start to bend it.
How much can I bend it?
How much can I bend it, right? How heavy it is. Like when I get a present, I shake it. Like, what is it? It's a gerbil. Don't shake it too much. But the point is they understood the assignment, right? This is where I want to undercomplicate it, right? I was working with a company yesterday, and we were looking at their email open rates that have been dropping off. And they said, well, maybe we're sending too many. And I said, hang on a second. And this is where I apply exercise principles. Frequency, intensity, time, type, volume, and progression. Those are exercise principles. That's the FIT VP principles. And I said, instead about frequency, let's go with quality, right? Like, is the quality of the email been dropping over the last couple of months? And maybe that's why people who have opened it aren't opening the later ones. And then we looked at their subject lines, because do not bend was on my mind. And I said, oh yeah, I wouldn't open these emails either. I don't open your emails, and I'm in your target market. So we started tweaking, and we said, there's not enough time for this call. We got to come back next week and talk about your subject line, because the point of the subject line is to get you to open the email. The point of the envelope is to get you to open the letter, hopefully. And I'd love to find out who this person is, because they understood the assignment. Hope they get a raise, because they got me, and I even knew what was going on. So I consider myself, a little bit of a different consumer, right? I'm focused on like sort of the marketing, and I loved it. I mean, this makes me want to do this just to make sure that person gets one little ding in their email, in her email box that goes, yes, someone do not bend got one guy to come back to get their 18 free.
Have you guys ever heard of Anderson or Windows by Anderson or Anderson Windows? You've heard of these?
I've got Anderson Windows, yeah.
All right, so maybe, I don't know, is it a regional thing, New York area thing? I don't know.
Oh, I've got Anderson Windows. They're great. Like my dad's been telling me about Anderson Windows my entire life.
So Tony's never heard of them, but maybe the regional. So I got something like this. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I got a letter in the mail, and now is a different approach, a little bit different. It was a similarly blank front envelope, but the envelope was a colored envelope. So it was like the legal size, but it looked like it could have been like an invite to a friend's wedding, or I don't know what it was, but the envelope was like, I think it was like light green. And the font that they used on the front of that was not the regular Arial or, Times Roman font. The font was like a script font. It looked like someone had handwritten it. Right. So I did the same thing. I did the same thing as Jimmy. We get the mail and it's a bunch of white envelopes that are asking for our time and we don't care about it. Right. But I see this green envelope. I pick it up and I'm inspecting it like Jimmy did. And I rip it open and it's a pitch for Andersen Windows, which we've never used before. And then I was like, oh, it's just Andersen. Like I'm not in the market for those windows. That will absolutely get the attention of a ton of customer or potential customers. But that's another thing for potential therapists and practice owners to try, like whether it's snail mail like this, which I know costs a little bit. It's going to be like $1 or more per envelope. You could send things like this to your past patients, because Tony talked about the most profitable marketing strategy is a reactivation campaign in physical therapy. And so I've actually been thinking recently of sending mailers to our previous patients or current patients and potentially even the folks that call in, because usually we talked about the phone call process. We usually get their address. We would have to maybe find online their apartment number or whatever, but we could start mailing things to these patients, these prospective patients' homes like this. And then inside is like an offer, or the inside is, diagnostic imaging or whatever. And it could be for people that called us and didn't convert, or they're busy, or we're trying to reactivate them because they used to work with us, whatever.
All right, Tony, let's go to you with things that you've done, things that I like failures too. I like successes. And then we can just sort of spitball for a hot minute before we go to the next topic in terms of like, okay, how do you bend and twist and remix, do not bend? So what's something you've done, because you've done this, you've put your money where your mouth is. What's worked, what hasn't worked?
Yeah, so now this is going back to 2001 to 2006. We just started the practice. We're growing. We have a very kind of finite community. We're on an island in Sarasota. We know all the houses, about 8,000 residents off season, about 20,000 residents in season. So I made a list of a couple things while you guys were talking. So I used to do this thing for a lucky penny. So imagine you take a standard envelope, you do a little promotional thing inside, but then you tape a penny or glue a penny to the letter. You put it in the envelope, and what you do is you actually press around the edges of the penny on the outside of the envelope. So the person who gets the envelope can see the indentation and knows that there's a coin in there. And we would do stuff and we would try different things like a lucky penny inside or a penny for your thoughts or whatever. We ran a campaign where we just put random pennies in there. We did that pressing, and then, we would have the person try to look up the value of the penny. But within all of that, obviously, we would talk about the value of your health and how valuable your health is and how precious it is and how you need to work on maintaining it, protecting it. A penny invested in your health will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Like, that was one direction. We did something similar. What?
How did it work?
Most of the people would be like, oh yeah, I remember I got a thing in the mail. I wouldn't say there was a high conversion rate, but 1 or 2 clients out of maybe 100 or 200 we sent. We never did 5,000 mailers. We just couldn't afford that. But typically anytime we did something like this, we would get 1 or 2 people who would come in. Another one was, I'll pay you to read this. It was written across the top of the outside of the envelope. I will pay you to read this. And when you opened it, there's $1 that was either paper clipped or whatever to the letter, and then the letter. And the same thing, the letter was just an introduction. Hey, we're new to the neighborhood. We're a physical therapy provider. Actually, at that time, we were personal training more than physical therapy, but we gave them the option to get in shape, lose weight, feel, revived again, all that kind of stuff. I don't remember. It was copywriting that I borrowed, air quotes borrowed, from some of the main copywriters at that time. We did a thing with a fish. So it was like a thin film that was shaped like a fish. And if you put it in your hand, it was a fortune-telling fish. That's what it was. You put it in your hand, the heat of your hand would cause the fish to curl up in different patterns. And depending on the pattern, you would read responses. So like ask the fish a question about your health, and then the fish would curl. And then one of the answers might be, you know, talk to a physical therapist, just corny stuff. The last one was, it was a wooden coin. We had ordered 500 of these wooden coins.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pretty funny saying on the coin, but I can't remember what that saying was. And it was just another thing we can put into an envelope. It had bulk, it had volume. When somebody receives it, they could feel that there was something in there. You know, we're not doing these things today, so they weren't as effective as I would have liked them to be, but they did help get the ball rolling when we were just getting started.
Well, these are the sorts of things, and I'll tell you what the social translation of these things are. These are the sorts of things you can't do all the time because you can't tell the same joke all the time, right?
Right.
You'll take the wind out. These are pickup lines. That's what these are. Like, do not bend got my attention. Excuse me, could you tell me how much a polar bear weighs? If I say that to a girl and she goes, what? Enough to break the ice. Hi, I'm Jimmy. Nice to meet you. I've zigged and zagged. She's doing this, which I'm 1 for 1 on that pickup line, by the way. But it's a pattern disruption, right? Really, really good marketers understand the goal is to, again, undercomplicate it. Right. The goal is of the pickup line is not to get married. I'm still not married. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm the only guy on the show not married. But the goal of pickup line isn't to get married. The goal of pickup line is to talk for 10 minutes. And the goal of talking for 10 minutes is to maybe get coffee in a week. The goal of coffee in a week is, this is all test drive, right? This is building a relationship. This is PR, public relations 101. And I got to learn public relations from a Franciscan friar. I told you guys this before, right? Like the brown robe, the rope around his waist. So everything was super basic. Brother Basil wasn't flashy. And I hated that while I was there because I wanted to be slick and cool and da-da-da. But what I actually got was all of the basics, because public relations isn't slick. It's the words in the name. It's building a relationship with the public. HelloFresh took a shot with Do Not Bend. That lands for me. Like psychographically, not demographic, not 44 years old and living in this zip code and this income. That's demographics. Psychographically, that works for me. They understand their customer, in my opinion. And this plays for me. This might not play for my dad, right? But this plays for me. So they understand your assignment. Your wooden nickel, like that's kind of cool. So now let's just spitball before we move on, because this is nice, right? This is a cool little, like, you know, case study and examples. But how might you use this? I brainstormed sort of an idea with myself of how could you use Do Not Bend in your health practice, in your PT practice, in your OT practice, anything. I had this idea that we never fully executed before. But if we take Dave's Anderson windows, I always wanted to invite reactivation patients to a combine. Now, I was working for like a really sports-focused clinic when I first got out of PT school. A lot of CrossFit athletes, triathletes, a lot of spandex, a lot of, you know, spandex and tight apparel. Picture that, right? Turf floor. And what I wanted to do is come up with like 8 or 9 events like the NFL Combine, because the NFL took this thing that was super stupid boring, right? Testing these players. And then now it's prime time. Like they made testing athletes important and they made it fun. Could you do that for, you know, your potential patients? So it's like, come up with a bunch of events that you could do in clinic, that you could do in 30 to 45 minutes, do it on a night or two, be like, we're doing the combine this week. It's Tuesday and Thursday between these hours. You come, give us your registration number that you got in your mailer or your email. Now it feels personal. We're going to rank you across these 8 domains, and then we're going to use some math magic, and we're going to rank you against people in your gender and your age to see where you fall. Understanding how fast you run the 40 is cool. Understanding that you're the fastest guy in your zip code that ran the combine this year at that, I thought was cooler, because if you're like, well, I want to play rugby or I want to play, you know, co-ed soccer, how do I get faster? Right this way. So for me, it was this combine idea of make it fun. If you tell me you're all about movement, make an event where I can come and move and you can rank me and rate me and make it feel about me. Do Not Bend was about me. And that's why I think it was successful. How could we twist this? What's an idea from each of you to twist this?
Dave?
So real quick, we're talking about lumpy mail or lump mail, and if we didn't kind of term it before, but this is like a marketing term. And marketers, I just Googled lumpy mail. So marketers claim lumpy mail package has an open rate of 100%, meaning nobody can resist finding out what the lump in that package might be. So I'm going to kick it over to Tony. Should therapists, PTs, OT, should they be, I don't know, like, can they insert something like, I mean, it's pretty cheap. If you do $1 or 1 or 2 pennies, that's pretty cheap. I don't know. I'm spitballing here as well. Should they cut a TheraBand apart and throw that in there? I mean, it's going to,
look at that.
The heavier the item, obviously it's going to cost you more. I think a penny or two or a quarter, because then it's bigger. I think that's pretty smart. But it needs to tie into, like you guys were kind of both saying, it needs to tie into what you want them to do. So the thing of like a pennies, like, you know, I would, or 2 pennies. And it's something like, I would love your 2 cents on whatever, like, and it could be on, you know, hey, we're looking to, I don't know, we're looking to invest more in our therapy practice, and we're looking to buy either this thing or this thing, the AlterG or the Shockwave or this, or I don't know, like you could just spitball, but I would love for your 2 cents for you to call this number or email this back or whatever. Tony, what are some items other than the $1 or 2 pennies or a quarter, which is genius in itself? Any other lump items that will not cost the sender more than like $1.50 per envelope?
You just reminded me. So another great one we did was I went on eBay. I ordered 100 pill bottles, like the orange, you know, kind of see-through pill bottle with the white cap, and it was child protected. And we would write a little note and put it in there about, you know, not having to have medication and using physical therapy. And you can mail that. I mean, you just throw a label on it and shoot it through the mail. It wasn't that expensive. Like you said, I know exactly what you're talking about with lumpy mail. Any of these things, you just need to look at it, be creative. If I was a hand therapist, maybe I'd put clothespins in envelopes and mail that. Like, they love to use those clothespins. You just look around and like get really creative and have a lot of fun with this. And just for people listening, if you don't know what we mean when we say reactivation, what I would do on my clinic is, let's say year number 1, we get 400 new patients into the clinic. Those aren't all going to be great patients that I want back in my clinic, but there are going to be some. And so we had a three-tier classification. We just used red, yellow, green. We put them on a spreadsheet. I'd export it from my EMR. And I just be like, okay, these green ones, these are the names of the people that I absolutely want back in my clinic every chance I get. The yellow ones, I'll take them, but I probably don't deliver as much value to them, so it might not be worth me trying to get them back in. The red ones are like, absolutely not. They are not coming back to my clinic. And back in early 2000, we would literally write a letter, and a handwritten letter on a piece of paper just saying, hey, John, you know, patient, this is Tony. It's been about 3 months since we've seen you for that rotator cuff issue you had. Usually this is about the time that some of those symptoms start to come back. I would love to hear from you. Just give me a call. Let me know how you're doing. And that's it. And I'd shoot it off in the mail. If I wanted to kind of experiment, I could do things like we're talking about here to make that letter more interesting. But usually it's just that letter, handwritten. I handwrite on the outside of the letter. And, you know, we'd always get a call from that person. That person would always want to come back. A lot of times therapists don't realize patients feel guilty if they didn't do their stuff and now their symptoms are back. And they feel so guilty that they don't want to call you and they don't want to come back in because they feel ashamed. But if you open that door for them, be like, hey, this is totally normal. I expect people to come back in 90 days. I want to see you again. Just come on in. We'll do a, 1-2 sessions. It doesn't have to be 12 sessions. They always come back. We always, anytime we hit a dip, we'd reactivate. We'd always fill the clinic back up.
They're warm. Like, if
they like you, they trust you. You already have the relationship.
That trust funnel, right? I mean, HelloFresh understood the assignment because I was a customer. That's why without knowing anybody at HelloFresh, like I'm pretty sure this is like this wasn't sent to randos. This is sent to people who'd spent money. And I think I've been a customer of HelloFresh twice and then lapsed and come back. So they know, like, if you poke Jimmy might come back. If you throw a line, Jimmy might respond. So
and
that
even
is
those
high
patients,
ROI.
even those patients who drop off, like a lot of them drop off just because other stuff comes up.
Stuff happens.
And then again, they feel guilty because they didn't finish the plan of care. And you think, I don't, but therapists think, oh, they don't care about their health. That was a terrible patient. No, they just got busy and it fell lower on the priority list. You reach out to them. Hey, Dave, how's it going? I know you probably got busy. No big deal. A lot happens to a lot of us. We start feeling better. We get busy with other things. We don't finish up. But the great news is we still have 3 or 4 sessions that you can come in for. Why don't we get you on the schedule for tomorrow? And
there was a brilliant campaign.
Get them back in. What?
There was a brilliant campaign. Shout out to my old boss, Chris Lloyd, on air named Sausage for several years. He's now in Long Island at a huge WBAB. He had a calendar on his wall, and once a month he had to take the calendar down and put up the next month. And underneath it was a full-page ad from the New York Times, and it was from, I think it was like from Holiday Inn, and they took out a full-page ad to create a holiday, and it was called Towel Amnesty Day, because the thing was, they were like, listen, if you came to one of our Holiday Inns and you accidentally stole a towel and you drop it off, listen, no questions asked. Listen, we get it. You get busy. Maybe you needed a towel. So they took a thing that was a negative and they're like, yeah, you mentioned guilt. If you've stolen a towel from a hotel, it instantly resonated with you. And if you didn't, it was still funny. So that's an example of sort of making the invisible visible, or talking about the elephant in the room in a fun and humorous way, right? So instead of Holiday Inn talking about themselves, they played on humor and emotion, your emotion, in a humorous way. I understand the guilt that you have. Listen, if you drop a towel off, we're not going to rat you out. Just drop it off. No harm, no foul. So every month when Chris Lloyd had to take that calendar down, he was reminded, and I was his music director, I was assistant program director, so I would be reminded too, like, oh, are we doing the boring thing? Are we just sharing ads on the radio, or are we yes-anding? Are we twisting, right? That's why when you do like a Christmas in July, it doesn't make any sense. It's a pattern disruption. How can we disrupt patterns? Otherwise, we just become noise. All right, let's switch topics. Tony,
real quick, Dave, you probably used to get those checks in the mail. It might be like an $80,000 check and from a mortgage company, and you can cash this. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And like credit cards, you'd get those in the mail. Like you'd get all this crazy stuff. Those are the ones that got open, not the stuff that was like everything else.
How about the reverse penny? Let's go reverse lumpy mail, the last example. There was an entire industry based on selling CD subscriptions. Sure. All you had to do was get this postcard, BMG or BMG, select 5 albums just by checking them, right? Tape a penny. Mom, I get these 5 CDs for a penny. And she's like, that's not how it works. You taped a penny and it was free to send it back. And then these CDs showed up. And then a new CD showed up every month. And I was on the hook for $20 a month or 50, whatever it was. And I didn't understand that. That's reverse lumpy mail.
Okay, where are we going?
All right, you want to switch topics?
Let's talk about Ozempic, because I shared a post yesterday, and you guys know, anytime somebody comes on and shares something personal, the ratings go up. So I'm going to share something personal. Okay. So I'm 49. This happened to me. This happened to me back in 2017 also. My body weight generally stays really stable. Stable to the point where like within a pound every morning on the scale, it does not vary. I generally, am moderate carb. So I wouldn't say I'm high carb. I wouldn't say I'm low carb. I'm moderate. But like back in 2017, I'm going to say like my weight started creeping up. It was higher than I wanted it to be. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was eating well, sleeping well, exercising, doing everything right. And so I was like, what do I do? So I did a 3-day fast, dropped like 10 pounds. In my mind, I said, all right, I'm going to gain all the weight back. I know this is just temporary, but I didn't. It like did some weird reset. My weight stayed down. I maybe gained 2 of the 10 pounds back. And then since like 2017, I was stable. Well, then again, this year, I'm going to say over the last 12 months, it's creeping up. And it's like I gained 3 pounds in 2 weeks for no reason. and then it stabilizes, and then 2 pounds, and then stabilizes, and then 3 pounds. And so now I got on the scale Sunday night and I'm 10 pounds heavier than I really should be. And I'm like, this makes no sense. I'm running more than I ever have. I'm exercising. I'm still eating well. I cook every meal every day. Like, even though I do love sugar, I'm not like eating candy. I'm not, I'll have a bowl of ice cream at night and it's a small bowl. So anyway, I'm like, all right, it's got to be hormonal. It's got to be some other stuff going on. Long story short, I was doing the intermittent fasting, doesn't make a difference. I was pushing my meals into a smaller window, didn't make a difference. I did a fast, didn't make a difference. I've got to do something. So Sunday night, made the resolution. I'm going to go full keto for the next 7 days. I'll see what happens. And I did. Monday morning, went full keto, 0 carb. I'm down about 5 pounds today. I know it's water weight. I know all the stuff. Okay. That being said, this goes to Weight Watchers. We all try stuff. Even if we don't think it's going to work or whatever, we try stuff. Weight Watchers is a huge company. At its peak, in fact, I've got an image that I can share. At its peak, the Weight Watchers stock hit $101 a share. Today, it's at 74 cents a share. Like, I love the concept.
And you know why, right?
Well, so people are saying because Oprah left. Is that what you're going to say? Okay.
Yep.
But other people who are a little more in the know said because Ozempic came out and all of these medications came out. And of course, Oprah is famous for going to Ozempic and losing all this weight. There's no question, like, you will lose the weight on these medications. There's questions about how it affects the rest of your body. But that being said, now what you see is you see a major event, Ozempic gets released, those medications, nobody needs to struggle to lose weight anymore. A business that was built on people's struggle now goes to practically zero. But now Weight Watchers is pivoting. They purchased a company that allows them to pay or hire physicians to write prescriptions for medications. What do you think they're going to be writing all day long? And now that should be the revival of this company that went from 100 to less than $1. The expectation is that now it's going to start to grow again. And I go back to physical therapy, right? I go back to, look, I don't get any referrals for hip replacement PT because the hip replacement procedure switched from posterior approach to anterior approach. Nobody goes to physical therapy anymore after a hip replacement. But what can I do then to pivot, to try and regain the market share, to do something new, to do something different, even if it's completely counterintuitive to what we had always done? What do you guys think about something like that? Most of the therapists that I know, probably me included, we're fighting like crazy to keep doing the things we've done for the last 50 years. What do you think? Do we pivot? Do we change? Do we adapt? Where do we go?
Oh, I mean, I'll let Dave go first, but my quick answer is you pivot and you adapt. You don't white knuckle anything anymore, especially now. I mean, the rate of change 20 years ago was fast and getting faster, and today it's just insanely quick. And unless you want to be a velociraptor and completely extinct, you pivot and you adapt. Dave, what do you think?
I mean, well, first of all, kudos to Tony for putting in all this effort, because I think a lot of Americans are just like, oh, like, how much is it? Oh, I'm just going to go on Ozempic or the other one that starts with an M. What's the other one? There's another one. I don't know. Manjaro is the other one. So a lot of Americans just want like the quick fix, pop a pill, whatever. And this injection is basically that, but now in injection form. So I love that Tony has tried different things. He will, try something and then try a different thing. Now, in terms of physical therapy, are you kind of saying, should we somehow get in this mix? Should we consider getting in the mix of a different health and wellness offering? Is that what you're kind of saying? Because I would say no.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. And this, I'm going to blend my two topics together. So we go back to the origins of PT. We were Reconstruction aides. It was World War I. We live in a very different world today, right? I think we all admit that. Based on my research, we went from reconstruction aid to physiotherapy aid to physical therapist. I'm like, we're fiercely fighting for something that has lower and lower value every single day. Insurance companies are paying less for physical therapy. Physical therapists deliver CPT codes. If you want to fight that trend, do it, but you're going to run out of money, right? Just like the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. We cannot win that battle, and there's no reason, there's no benefit to us fighting it. We're not fighting to be called reconstruction aids today. We accepted the change, and with it, the growth. I think we do more than just deliver CPT codes. I think there's a place in a hospital for a technician to deliver CPT codes. They do not need our level of education. So why don't we rebrand? Why don't we pivot? Why don't we take the skills, the knowledge, the experience we have, call it something else, package it as something else, and just move into a whole new business model?
Yeah.
Dave?
So I'll jump in. And you do you want to go, Dave?
Well, I was just going to say, it's too late. It's too late to rebrand. Here's an example. There was a school, a university in Philadelphia. It was called Philadelphia College of Pharmacy. It was the first pharmacy school in the nation. It was founded in 1821. I'll tell you in a second as to how I even know who cares and how I even know this. Then it was called Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science, PCPS. And then it was called, they rebranded again, and it was called University of the Sciences in Philadelphia. That's when I eventually went, because then they had PT and OT and physics and math and a whole bunch of other majors. And then by the end of my 6th year with the DPT program, it like rebranded to U Sciences. And then it was acquired by St. Joe's University, St. Joe's Hawks in Philadelphia. So now my university was bought by another university. And the reason, I believe, is because there was a mismanagement of branding, of terms and all that. And so it's too late. I understand the reconstruction part. Could that fit currently with like the CrossFitters? I got to go see my reconstruction person, whatever. Like, it kind of could fit. I want to get rebuilt back up if I have a neuro condition, if I have a, whatever. I don't know, but it's too late. And the branding, we're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to live with physical therapists, and everywhere else in every other country is physiotherapists. And we're going to continue to fight with the terms with, Lifetime Fitness and them using DPT. And we have a DPT degree, but we're PTs as the license. It is what it is. It's too late. You kind of have to stick with a brand, and you run with it. The way that Harvard and Duke have the same brand name for 100 or more years. Like, you have to stick with a brand name, and you run with it. If you have too many brand shifts or changes or rebrands, it gets watered down or diluted, or there's too many hands in the mix or whatever, and then the thing is gone, or the thing is no longer relevant. So that's my biased thought. What do you think, Jimmy?
They changed the wrong thing. They kept changing the name. I mean, the old English guy had it down. A rose by any other name, would it smell as sweet? Changing the name isn't the brand. Remember, the brand isn't the name. And I have receipts to prove that you can pivot without changing the name. I would say don't change the name. Or in fact, the name doesn't even matter. Abercrombie and Fitch got in so much trouble, right, for sexualizing teens. They've pivoted and had a giant revival. Polaroid, once, completely obsolete, known for instant photography, rebranded because they decided they were going to capture nostalgia. Now picture Miley Cyrus on that wrecking ball. Everything that goes far left is eventually going to come far right. It's all a pendulum. It's going to come back and forth. So let's focus on Weight Watchers. That's what Tony brought up, right? Understand what value you were bringing if you were Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers doesn't sell weight loss. That's how they do what they do. PTs don't sell PT. PT is how they do what they do. So just really quickly, I brought up that image that I've used before, and I'll just flash it on the screen for a couple seconds, right? Which is this B2C value pyramid from Bain & Company. This is 32 values. This is the periodic table of value that a product or a brand can have. If Weight Watchers is smart, and I'm guessing they are because they're trying to save a brand like Abercrombie and Fitch or Converse or Polaroid, all these brands are having major revivals. Understand what you actually sell. So I think what Weight Watchers actually sells is motivation. They bring individuals who feel alone and lost with a goal together. And what do we know about humans? We're social animals. We want to do it together. We also simplified things. Weight Watchers was big with the point system, right? Hey, eat less carbs. How many? What are carbs? How do I count those? They had cards. I remember my aunt used to lay out cards on the table. Then they got smart. There was an app. Enter in what you're eating. So they simplified and made it accessible. They also made it life-changing, right? Look at their ads. Used to look at their ads with Oprah on there. Before and after photos. Do not bend is simplification. Before and after photos are visual proof of what other people, just like you, have accomplished. If you do this, you can get that too. And the final, the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, right? The hardest one to get, self-transcendence. Weight Watchers could focus on, for those who reach their goals, many inspire others and share their journey. There was a brand that tried to do this, wound up backfiring. Remember Jared from Subway? They put all their eggs in one basket. Look at Jared. He's standing in the one leg of his pants that used to be huge. Now he's just, look how skinny I am now. This is crazy. Oops. But that was self-transcendence. They had a brand ambassador. So I don't think it's ever too late for something to repivot, but change of a name of University of the Sciences or whatever the hell it was, they kept changing the logo. Your logo isn't your brand. They didn't know what they were selling, or they weren't delivering it right. It wasn't a brand problem. It was a process, a people, or a product problem.
That makes sense. But I think the challenge for the profession is, I think too few in the profession want to change anything. You know, that's the bottom line. So like a company can change the culture, a company can change the direction, a company can do that. But we can't agree on anything. Plus there's so much diversity within the profession. Like I don't agree with anybody that I talk to on a professional basis about what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing. So like, there's just no way we could come together. So that's why you cut the ties, you let the term physical therapy go, you let the people who want to be physical therapists be physical therapists, and you create this new terminology with, you know, and craft the narrative around that new term.
Yeah, no, I think you're never going to get to profession.
Go ahead,
but this is good. I'll be quick. This is good because everybody else is going left. By you going a little bit right, you're drastically different as a physical therapist, right? Everybody does this. We go this way.
I think there is space because there are referrals for physical therapy for the what are the different weight loss procedures, like either gastric bypass or what's the other one? I guess
lap band, gastric bypass. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Okay. So like one of my first patients when I moved from New Jersey into Brooklyn in 2014 was someone who was younger. Maybe he was in his 30s or 40s, and he had gone through one of these major surgeries. He had a lot of loose skin, and he was referred to physical therapy for basically like medical monitoring of strength training, right? So like gently increasing strength and mobility over time because of the weight and the person was not really mobile or whatever. I suppose, Tony, and I think Tony will like this, I suppose there's an opportunity for therapists like us to, let's say if we identify, we ask some of our patients, like if we have some patients who are obese or morbidly obese or whatever, we could potentially ask them, you know, or recommend or refer them to some other practice that does this. Like we refer to the Weight Watchers Ozempic team or whatever for this, for what Jimmy said. So for the behavioral side of the point system and the coaching and the app and all that we don't have to build. We don't want to build that. Maybe we want to just do our thing. And then on the back end, they have the weight loss, they have the potential transformation, they have the lap band surgery or the gastric bypass or the Ozempic, you know, weight loss over however many, you know, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And then the Weight Watchers, Ozempic, whatever company refers the same patient back to us for the post-transformation strengthening mobility, or maybe they're doing both at the same time. So maybe there's room for that. We don't have to take the whole Weight Watchers thing and make an app and all that, but maybe there is a way where therapists can refer to these services. They can screen the patient to see if they're medically appropriate for Ozempic or Mounjaro or whatever procedure. And maybe that's a way to help one of our patients or several of our patients have this type of a transformation, because we don't have the time or the effort or the ability to do this. We're not writing prescriptions for Ozempic or Mounjaro or whatever. So like maybe that's an opportunity.
100%. Like, I don't build the treadmill that I use in my clinic. I buy the treadmill so people can use it in my clinic. Putting together a program like that, like back in the day when I was going through, just the deep dive into, well, what's best? Is it vegan? Is it paleo? Is it carnivore? Like all that stuff. I spent years diving so deep into all of the research, all of the content around that. And it was one of those things where I was like, I am so obsessed with the topic. I have the motivation to build a program, but maybe I don't build the resources. So today, yeah, it would be, who is the physician I can work with that's going to prescribe the medication for these appropriate patients? What are the apps? So like Noom, I'm on the Noom website right now. Pricing for Noom, $209 a year. I could create a cash pay program that might be $3,600 a month. And this is dedicated to adult males who are fathers, who want to be great representatives for their kids, who want to show their, dedication to health and longevity and do all of these things, want to be harder to kill. That is a program that I can just pull the pieces and the resources that are out there, package it together, just like I would package a plan of care for a total knee replacement or a hip replacement or anything else. This, instead of using a treadmill and an elliptical, I'm using a physician who can write a referral for Ozempic. I'm using an app that can help monitor weight management and those things, prescribe nutritional plans that I might not do. I'll give general information, but I'm not going to prescribe how many macros or whatever you need to consume.
Yeah.
You can absolutely do that. And now we have RTM, which, if you've seen my recent posts, I'm like, look, I can use RTM for, managing anything related to a goal that I'm working on for my patient. And it doesn't have to be RTM billed through insurance. It could be RTM paid for as part of a $3,600 monthly program. $3,600 a month, 3 months, 90 days, we're going to drop this weight in a manageable way, sustainable way, and we're going to change your lifestyle. That's going to affect the next 20 years of your life. Like, that's what I want to sell. That's not physical therapy. I have no value in the term physical therapy.
Right. So I'm saying use it or not, but
sure,
who cares? Like, we're literally arguing over a term that sort of has ambiguous mayonnaise meaning. And I'm saying focus more on the problem. I'll give a front tease for my podcast is next week. I'm doing a series on PT innovators, 5 different episodes focused on a PT that has spotted a problem, been frustrated enough by it to actually, all of them stepped outside of their PT role. None of them had a background in product creation or marketing. None of them had any of that. They saw a problem, said, this is a big enough problem that pisses me off, and I think enough other people that I'm willing to dedicate myself to solving it. And all of them did. So they, it's like Scott Dickinson at Next Level, a neck strengthening device, Garrett Drumheller at Nordstick, Patrick and Helena Esmond for Vestibular First, where I work now, Jay Deshari, a runner who created Mobo Board. And we got another guy who is essentially trying to reinvent the rollator from a PT perspective, right? But nowhere, or I shouldn't say nowhere, but somewhere in the marketing, it's not at the top, they say invented by, created by a physical therapist. They understand, I'm going to solve your problem. That's what you really care about right now. So pick your problem, pick your molehill, pick your mountain. Which one do you want to climb? I got news for you. It's not term protection. What that means is, you're lazy and you're like, hey, the stream of things that I could sit passively and receive is now being interrupted. Someone's further up the line. That scene from Lucille Ball where she's trying to eat all the chocolates. Someone's eating more of my chocolates further up the assembly line, and that makes me mad. So I'm going to call a lawyer instead of doing any of the real work, which is figuring out how to go further upstream. But yeah, keep bitching about term protection.
Do we want to pitch Shark Tank this late in the episode, or do we want to save it?
I think we could tease it, because if we can't explain it in 30 seconds or less, it's never going to take off. It's never going to work, right? So here's the idea. So I just sort of teased that series that I'm going to do next week, right? So I found people who made products who are PTs, and they had great stories. I stole the format. I'll just say it. I tried to be my best Guy Raz from NPR's How I Built This, and I just walked them through their story, and then I shut up long enough for them to tell it. I promise. Every once in a while, I do shut up on my podcast. So here's the pitch. I've worked with the Academy of Leadership and Innovation before with an APTA. They do this event called Technopalooza every year at CSM. Essentially, it's just a session, and they let people who have created products or tech come together in one room, and people walk around. It's like a children's museum, touch and play. What if you took that one step further? What if you took that concept and you added it to Shark Tank? If you had a product that appealed to, or your audience was physical therapists, you wanted to sell it to internal PTs, would you pay $500 for a 5-minute chance to pitch it to tens of thousands of PTs? You should be saying yes. If your product is and their audience is PTs, $500 or $1,000 from your company for a 5-minute pitch is worth it. So what if we took $500, $750, $1,000 per company, did 20 of them, and said, winner takes half the pot, right? Winner is actually going to be able to pitch, but we all know there's all those pitches on Shark Tank. You're like, oh, you're not coming here for a deal. You're here to be on TV and be in front of Cuban and get in front of them. So the exposure of itself, in and of itself. Now, I don't think we're Shark Tank, but I also don't think I think we're pitching to a smaller audience. So I think we could do that. So that's my idea, which is how do we create a pitch comp, which is a thing. We're not inventing that. That's a tried and true thing where people pay to have a chance to pitch if their target audience is these people. I think all we need is a flashy name, and we got ourselves a thing. What do you think?
I think companies out there would love it. So even if it's, Scott Dickinson at Next Level or anyone else, free exposure on a big platform, and then you might win cash. I mean, you're getting free. You're paying for whatever you said, $500, $750, whatever. So okay, right. You're paying for some. So it's marketing. You're paying for some exposure that's guaranteed, and then the potential upside of cash if you have a great product pitch, presentation, whatever. So what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I love it. I think that's what we saw Shark Tank become. It's more about being on the episode than it is about getting an investor. But it's because there's real value in that. I've seen a lot of follow-up episodes where they talk about how successful businesses have come, even when they didn't get investment, just because of the exposure from the show. So I think it's great. Plus, I didn't realize when I was filling out the Y Combinator application at the bottom, it said, have you been like the recipient of any awards or pitch competitions? I know that they exist, but I didn't even think that was a thing.
Yeah, I helped when I was at Mount Sinai Hospital. I helped. They have like a Y Combinator in Mount Sinai. A lot of these big health systems do. It's smart, right? You got a bunch of smart people that you're paying, and they have some ideas. Hey, don't let that idea go. We'll give you some infrastructure, some help. So they have a program that they own it.
They own that idea.
They own a portion of it, right? Yeah. Oh, believe me, before you pitch, you are signing something, and they are saying, since we are doing that. But if these big companies are doing it, there's obviously some value in it, right? So let me ask this: as listeners and viewers, would you watch these episodes? Right? Would you watch a 5-minute episode of a product that maybe help you in your clinic that maybe you'd purchase? Right? I think people would. Right? One of the biggest verticals on YouTube is product review or unboxing videos. People are captivated, myself included, on those things. So this would be short, sweet, and to the point, right? Because these might be products that don't necessarily, maybe they don't exist yet, or maybe they're early. That's Shark Tank, right? So would you watch it? Scott already chimed in. He'd watch that show, right? So my pitch would be, let's do 20 of them. Let's do it in March, because everybody's buzzing about what in March? Oh, we're getting mad in March, baby. All you do is visualize a bracket coming down to 1 and who's the champion. So I feel like this would be a great way to expose people. And maybe you come in 5th. Maybe you don't win. Maybe whoever we get to as Sharks or us idiots don't pick you. But someone out there who's smart, who has money, who knows where to invest it, sees you. Again, that exposure comes into it. And maybe we just give you some really good feedback on, hey man, your product is a good idea, but your pitch is a little weak. Maybe we change the pitch a little bit. So with that pitch comp at Mount Sinai, I actually helped one group win 2 different pitch comps because I sat in the audience in this cohort leading up to it. And I was like, yo, all of your pitches look, feel, sound, taste, and smell the same. Do you want to win this thing or a chance? Just be 5% different. Like 5. I'm not telling you to go in there and light yourself on fire. I'm not telling you to go in there and be Dennis Rodman, a big 7-foot-tall dude wearing a wedding dress. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you to be a little bit different. Like, what if you approach this as if you were going to be on Shark Tank? So they did, and they won 2 grants from it. So that kind of felt good. I felt a little validation in a room full of smart people. Jimmy's crazy idea worked. So I don't know. This is something we had in our DMs, and I said, wouldn't this be cool? Here's the format. People pay $500,000. We get 20 of them. Winner takes half the pot. We keep the rest because we're going to do a bunch of work to get this thing to get viewers and get eyeballs. But if this could go somewhere, if you get a $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 investment, 5 years from now, you'll be saying thank you to our pitch comp.
Let's put a spin on this. Spin number 1, 3 divisions. You've got a student division, a professional division, and an open division.
I like it.
Spin number 2, I don't know the show, but isn't there a singing competition where like 4 famous people have their chairs turned, they're listening to the voice. And then, is it The Voice? They hit the button and they spin around, and then they want to be the mentor to that person.
Yes. Yes.
So like, I could totally see something like that happening where you offer your mentor services, whatever. I think that's a cool idea.
Dave Kittle here is speaking in third term. I am open and accepting free founders equity. So if you want some free equity, if you want to pass along some juju, happy to mentor on that basis, but not for free. Maybe Tony and Jimmy will do it for free. I don't know.
Well, no. Hang on a second. Hang on. If you don't have the $1,000, then you can pay in potential equity. We'll say, like, we'll take a look at your initial pitch. We'll let you on the show. But if you don't have $1,000, we'll take a few points because you think this is a great idea and our path is your path to success. I would like to tie my success to your success. Let's do that. It needs a name. I don't want to give my suggestion. I don't want either of your suggestions. I want to hear a suggestion from people listening. You got the pitch, you got the gist, you got the vibe. Would you watch it? Are we off base, or is this something that you'd be like, yeah, I'd watch that or listen to that? And then what should we call it? Because I think I'm pretty creative, but the funny part is when you put people out there and now this is rolling around their brain all day, maybe they'll come up with better ideas. Parting shots. And I want to say, I'll see some people live tonight at New York Institute of Technology doing a live show at their PT program. I do this from time to time, interview faculty, alumni, students, whatever. And I do it like Jimmy Fallon live. So I'll see you out there letting you know that before my parting shot.
Dave,
what do you got? Before the parting shot, with this idea, we're talking about physical products and services.
Wow me.
Or like, and digital.
Yeah. I mean, apps, products, platforms. What do you got? You got 5 minutes, my friends. I did this once in person at the Graham sessions, and I said it had to be a succinct pitch. I mean, I have the music queued up when the person was walking in the room. Like, I made it legit. And the 5-minute pitch went to 10. And I was like, here's the thing. There's a thing called Parkinson's Law, which is the time it takes you to complete a task expands or contracts based on the time you're given. If you give people 5 minutes, they'll do a really great condensed job. You give them 10, they're going to put 5 pounds of crap and 5 pounds of good stuff in there. And it's not good anymore. So I would be hard on the rules, which is, and I have no problem helping people or giving them insight because I want the final product to be good. Like, good. The audience needs to win. So I would say, make sure we have a clear ask of what this is. 5 minutes and 1 second, and your camera and microphone are off.
Parting shot, Dave.
Parting shot. Always considering other ways for marketing, for getting in front of whoever it is, whether it's a prospective patient or it's one of these companies, right? It's one of these companies like Next Level or whoever. So they're going to send something to my practice. They're going to send something to Tony's practice. Like, why wouldn't you consider Lump Mail a different? There's also a company called Robot Ink Marketing, and it's like a robotic arm that's holding a pen. It's a robot arm, and it's writing it's addressing envelopes to your mailing list. Now, of course, again, that costs $1.50 or more per envelope, but the potential recipient is going to open it. So if you're one of these companies and you're looking to get in front of practice owners, if Jimmy with Vestibular First, whatever. So yeah, Robot Ink Marketing. And by the way, on that website, you can request a sample. I put my home address in, forgot about it. A week or two later, I got this in the mail, and I was like, who do I know in Ohio? This is not Tony Maritato's town. Like, who is this? I totally forgot about it. I opened it up and I'm like, oh, Robot Ink Marketing. Dude, it literally looked like someone wrote it with blue ink. It blew my mind, and it's from a robotic arm.
So you got to ask, like, hey, when this hits, what is your average lifetime value of a client when they come back after a reactivation campaign? Is that worth $1.79? Right? Is it worth $1.79 times 1,000 or 5,000? I'm going to say if you have a good product and service, yes, it's yes times 1,000 is my guess.
Yeah. And then it's called a blind spot for a reason, because you can't see it. You can't see the thing that's there. Nobody came into today's session thinking, I want to learn about direct mail, but now hopefully you got some ideas that wasn't even in your mind an hour ago. Yes. This is the kind of stuff that I always say, I try to surround myself with people that think differently. And if I can't find them in human form, I'm going to watch them on YouTube or podcasts. So get out there and hear.
I would say do not bend are my 3 parting shot words. Do not bend, which is what can you take from this idea of pattern disruption or just doing things differently, and differently doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Simple is scalable. Simple is clear. Simple is concise. Don't overcomplicate your marketing. All right, we'll be back on Tuesday. Again, I'll see some people, Eric Greenberg and some other people at New York Institute of Technology. Dave, are you around today? New York IT is on the west side. Maybe.
You muted me, so I could. Oh, I unmuted. When I'm going to be out of town. Sorry, I'm going to be out of town this evening. I'm leaving right after this, so.
Whatever. Go out of town, have fun. I expect pictures. All right, we'll be back on Tuesday. Like, subscribe, listen, all the things the cool streamers say.